Welcome to the Family Banking Show with your hosts Rob, Derek, and John, where we dive into the world of the infinite banking concept and discuss personal banking strategies to secure your legacy and build generational wealth. We're glad you're here, and we hope this episode serves you well.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Family Banking Show. We are your hosts, Derek, Rob, and John. Guys, welcome back and happy Thanksgiving
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
or belated Thanksgiving. We're actually recording this in December, so it's good to
Yep.
see you guys again. Hope you had a fun time with family and friends.
Made it back from San Antonio, Texas. It's where I grew up. And man, it was like 75 and sunny and something like that. 23 or whatever, and
Yeah.
windy, cloudy, but yeah, it was a good time with family.
Yeah, winter
Yeah,
definitely hit Minnesota while you were gone, John.
For sure.
yeah, it was exceptionally unusually cold during the Thanksgiving week for this period. I remember we walked out of the house last week as 8 above zero, and this is like at noon. So yeah, you could feel it.
And all of our Minnesota winter drivers are back on the road. We
Mhm.
had a light dusting of snow, and people forget how to drive in the snow. So,
Just gotta
Yep.
remember, first couple weeks, get back into it.
yeah, yeah. For those of you in the South, definitely leave enough space between you and the car in front of you. And don't slam on your brakes. Whatever you do,
Right,
pump
right.
your brakes.
hmm
Those are the pro tips that we can offer to you. So, guys, this
Another pro
episode,
tip. Another pro tip. I learned this one I went, up in northern Michigan and get a lot of snow up there. When you, even with your brake on, if you have your car in drive, it's still trying to move. If you put your car in neutral, it's like hitting the brakes. It's crazy. And it's like throwing out like a parachute or something behind you because the car is still trying to move even with the brake on. So if you just hit it neutral, it's like it's like an extra set of brakes. So extra pro tip.
yeah. How is that
Nice.
different than hitting the parking brake?
Then you start spinning around.
Yeah.
No, but putting in neutral is like the engine is always still trying to turn your wheels. And so if you put it neutral, it just like, I'm telling you, it just stops everything. It's different.
Yeah.
It's like free rolls or I don't know.
I'm
Yeah.
using
Try
that
it in
right
the parking lot.
Exactly. Don't try it on the road. Try it where nobody's around you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this episode, we are planning to talk about some key insurance riders for infinite banking type policies. We're going to discuss our core three and then have a add-on bonus rider for our listeners here at the end of the episode. But Rob, why don't you just go ahead and explain to us what is a rider, first of all, and why is it something that we choose to include as an auto include on these policies?
Yeah. So riders, just with insurance policies, just like an auto insurance policy or other insurance policies, riders are things that you can add to the policy that enhance it, that give added benefit, that sometimes have a cost, um, sometimes don't have a cost. For example, there are certain riders that we'll talk about that are just they're part of the policy, and then there's other riders that you actually pay a cost for, and yeah, they're just a nice thing that I think that people don't realize that there are these riders available in permanent whole life policies that you can utilize that can really just enhance the protection of the different things that might happen during life that people just aren't aware of that are really beneficial. They can help out in unexpected situations, or they can give you more, enhance the benefits of the policy. And so that's what we want to do here is just make people aware of what these riders are and how you might be able to help you, how you might be able to utilize them or not, and which ones that we really like to add to make sure that are wrapped up in a policy with our clients.
Yeah, I like to think of it as if you were to go car shopping or you're buying or building a new house, If you're talking with your builder, they might say, okay, if you want stainless steel appliances, it's going to be this much extra. Or if you want a black countertop, it's going to cost this much. Those are the kind of added on accessories that you could include in your house, or similarly to a car. Same thing goes with life insurance. You have those additional perks that can be purchased that do offer more protection. So John, why don't you start us off? Talk to us a little bit about the enhanced disability waiver of premium, which is a mouthful. Go ahead and break that down. What does that mean in layman's terms? How is it going to be applied, and when does it make sense?
Right. Yeah, this is another way that we find that these IBC policies make each dollar as efficient as possible, right? So this rider that we're talking about, the enhanced disability waiver of premium, is basically a disability insurance type of policy, right? It is not a disability insurance policy, right? I got to be clear about that. It's a rider on a whole life policy that will waive the requirement to pay annual premiums, or however you pay premiums, in the event that you are disabled. And then the enhanced part talks about being disabled just from your primary occupation, right? So if you, whatever you may be doing, right? My dad installs garage doors. If he, has some sort of arm injury and he can't lift, a garage door, that's his primary occupation. The life insurance company, will probably require proof of it of some sort. Once that's submitted, they'll say, okay, like, we will waive your premiums. Your policy stays in force. The cash value continues to grow at that guaranteed, uninterrupted compounding, nature that you always have access to. And it will stay in place, this disability rider, for the length of your disability, right? There's some technical nuances that we can dive into if you want to talk more about it, but at a high level, your premiums are waived if you are disabled from your primary occupation. That's the enhanced part. And then the non-enhanced, just the standard cookie cutter waiver of premium disability, is a total disability. That means you can't do any other line of work to produce income. So they will waive, the premiums in that event for the length of your disability. And yeah, your policy stays in force. It is a form of disability protection, in addition to your life insurance, in addition to the cash value that you get to become your own bank for, and all the other protections. But that's a huge rider that we love adding to these policies at a very, very minimal, added cost, if at all, to protect our clients all the more.
So I have a bonus question for you guys. Can you add a waiver of premium rider to a term rider?
Term policy?
The term policy?
A convertible term policy.
Yes. And you can even, so they have two different types, which is just incredible to me, guys. I love what we do. Oh my gosh. But yeah, you can do it to where it'll waive the premiums for the term costs, and your death benefit will still be in force, right? We've already talked about term in previous episodes. But another bonus waiver is that it can convert into a new whole life policy.
Isn't that cool?
It's incredible.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, so just to go through that example again that John was talking about, he mentioned if, say, his father or family member were to become disabled to the degree that they were unable to do their current occupation, that waiver of premium would waive those premium charges for up to 6 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if it came to be that he was unable to do any occupation, if he was totally disabled, then it would continue waiving that premium for the life of the policy or the life of the insured. So the enhanced disability, I think, does have a role to play, especially in my opinion. I work with a lot of people that are in the trades. If you are in some sort of dangerous line of work, a buddy of mine is an electrical lineman for XL Energy. He's up on standing on poles or in a man basket, dealing with high voltage equipment, it's probably makes sense to have a good, strong base of disability type like insurance, or at least this waiver of premium in place for him. So strongly recommend and urge our clients to at least consider having the enhanced disability waiver of premium. Let's move on, guys. Rob, why don't you cue us off here on what term insurance is, what a term rider is, and how does it function alongside a whole life insurance policy?
Okay, so a term rider is an option that we have to basically have a fixed term, convertible term policy within your whole life policy. 7-year term, 10-year term, 15-year term, 20-year term, 30-year term policies that are within your whole life policy. And what that term does is it gives you increased death benefit at a lower cost, just like term would do. And what that increased death benefit gives you, it gives you headroom. It gives you room then that you can leverage a paid up additions rider that you can then use later. So it's just, think of it as a fixed term policy within your whole life policy that gives you that added death benefit, gives you more death benefit protection immediately that you might not be able to get paying just base, but then it also gives you that overhead, that headroom of that death benefit that you can then leverage the paid up additions rider to start, building cash value.
It really just gives you more room to store capital, right?
Yep.
Part of infinite banking is you want to store as many dollars as possible in your policy. And like you're saying, Rob, to allow for that, or create capacity, so you got to then increase the proportion of death benefit. So it's a really helpful component to add that room.
Right.
All right, guys, let's talk about our favorite rider, probably the one that is most famous in our conversations about infinite banking, and that would be the paid up additions rider. And we've mentioned this in several episodes in the past, but just real high level, what is the paid up additions rider? Why is it something that is a necessity for infinite banking or family banking type strategies?
PUA is wonderful, like you're talking about, Derek. I think of it and I describe it like a mini one-time payment whole life policy that's just added on to your current existing policy, right? And so what it does is, for a whole life policy, they plan out for a very long period of time that you're going to pay premiums, and then they, give you death benefit in relation to that, plus all these other benefits that we're talking about. With PUA, they're not planning out, a long-term period of payments. They're planning out just this one payment, one little shot that gives you slightly more death benefit. I think it's normally like a 1 to 3, 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 5, depending on age and other factors. But compared to whole life, is a much greater proportion as far as dollars to death benefit. And the PUA not only gives you extra death benefit, but it results in immediately almost all of that premium paid into accessible cash value. And that's what infinite banking utilizes very heavily. And that's what we implement in our own policies, right? We don't tell people or recommend for anybody things that we wouldn't do ourselves. And so we have lots of PUA in our policies, and that's how you're able to pay the premium and immediately have upfront liquidity. And so, PUA, we like to balance with the base premium to have both the short-term benefits, but also the long-term strategy behind these policies, to where you're able to still access cash value immediately and, finance the things of life and take advantage of opportunities in the here and now, short term, but also have the base implemented for the long term. So those mini whole life policies are huge. And then the biggest benefit, obviously, is that there's very little drag or capitalization to it. It just results in immediate cash value, if not 100% or more of what you paid in premium.
All right. Well, that was a good explanation, John, of paid up additions. And of course, as we like to say, it's part of the secret sauce of having an infinite banking type policy. And it's an absolute necessity, in our opinion, of having it included in your policies. There, depending on the carrier, which insurance company that you might see a policy from, there's slight variations between each one. But the general idea is you want a good portion of your overall premium expenses going towards paid up additions. And you need to work with talented and competent IBC practitioners to help make sure that your policy isn't going to blow up in your face. All right, guys, our last rider for today, kind of the bonus one, is what's generally known as accelerated death benefit rider. Who would like to take a stab at explaining that for our audience?
I can take a shot at it. It's pretty simple. It's basically as described in the policy, and that's the thing to note too. When you get your policy, it has all the riders described in there in detail, what they mean, what they do, and so it's a great resource to see what these riders are. But if you look at the description of that rider, is if you get diagnosed with a terminal illness, when you have 12 months to live, you can access a portion of your death benefit immediately. And so that's just a nice, that as we're talking about these riders, it's just, there's these nice benefits that come along with this already great, a product, dividend paying permanent whole life that people aren't aware of, that really in the time when you really need it, they really can come into play and really help out. And so, yeah, it's a really great benefit.
And generally that comes tax-free, right? It's basically receiving death benefit, the life insurance portion of these policies, while you're alive.
Right.
In that case, it's probably a sad day for whoever's activating this rider, but it's maybe not as sad because you're able to actually financially take care of things and be able to have the last 12 months of your life be taken care of, right? And not have to worry about other things like, am I still going to be able to leave anything? Because it still does leave likely a significant death benefit on top of that for your heirs and for future generations. So like you're saying, it's one of those added perks that just can really take care of you when you need it the most.
Yeah, and as everyone knows, that the cost of medical expenses when you're nearing the end of your life can be significant and substantial, and obviously daunting for many people going through that when they're caring for a loved one, having the added stress of how are we going to afford this type of care? And this is where some of these additional riders can offer some support in that scenario there. So definitely something to consider. And we've even seen that it makes a lot of sense for somebody just starting their policy to see the maximum amount of benefit early on. And so, God forbid, if somebody were to become terminally ill shortly thereafter starting a whole life insurance policy, this is a nice perk that is worth considering when you're going through the application process, just to have a little bit of additional comfort. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, in our next episode, we're going to cover at least 4 more insurance riders to come. So I hope that our listeners will stick with us. If you're interested in learning more about how to start your own family banking system, you can certainly reach out to us at thefamilybankingshow@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to schedule a call and answer any questions that you might have. Until next time, guys, we'll see you in the next episode.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for joining us. If you're interested in a conversation about anything we've discussed, you can find our contact information in the show notes below.
And subscribe, follow, and leave a review to help spread this message and to help families across the country discover the generational blessing of IBC. May God bless you, and we'll see you next time.